All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me. Today is one of my favorite classes. I love the Paragon's Collaboration Center. I love how easy it is, and I love the whole concept. As busy as we are, we can go ahead and create custom searches for our buyers. We can set them up so they automatically get any new properties that come on the market. There's some great functionality behind it that gives you control. You can also see what's going out to your clients. So we're going to take you through it step by step today. If I haven't got the pleasure of meeting you before, although I'm seeing a lot of familiar names on the list today, my name is Colleen DeLange. I've been with my Real Source, gosh, as a member, 20 years. I've been on staff there, I think, for 11 now. Makes me feel old when I say it. But the reason I like this class so much is because I've also been a licensed agent myself, now for, geez, 23 years, I think it is. And I use this product. I set clients up because it's so easy. And my clients love that they can create their own searches. They're constantly getting those new notifications for properties, and it allows them to communicate directly with me by doing things like favoriting listings. I can drop them in showing time carts and schedule the appointments immediately. So we're going to handle and go over all of those details today. So if you haven't attended a webinar with us before, you can ask questions throughout the class today. All you have to do is open up your GoToWebinar panel and you'll see a questions box there. Brian has been kind enough to jump on behind the scenes and he's going to be answering questions. So if you do have any questions, don't feel like you have to hold them to the end. Feel free to put them in the questions box and we'll go ahead and address them. That way we're not too far down the way either. If we're on a particular screen, it's easier to handle those questions right on that screen. So don't be shy. Feel free to open up that questions box and throw in any questions that you may have. All right, one last thing is I also put some helpful cheat sheets or handouts right in the GoToWebinar panel. If you open it right next to the questions box, you should see the handouts. You can download those, you can print them off, you can save them to your computer, but they're great little checklists. So let's say a month from now when you're trying to set up a new buyer, it's really nice when you have that handy cheat sheet of making sure that you've completed all of those steps. If at any time today you do need to step away, we actually are recording this class. So if you miss anything, you can also, I'm going to show you exactly where to find it. You can go back and you can watch this recording again. All right. So with that, I'm going to turn off my kind of fuzzy hair and I'm going to jump into the Collaboration Center. We'll kind of teach this class backwards, if you will. I kind of like you to see the Collaboration Center first. I'd like you to see all the bells and whistles. I want you to be able to go in and see exactly how those properties look to the buyers. I want you to be able to be very comfortable with navigating through the Collaboration Center. And as soon as we cover everything, all the fun things you can do, then we're going to actually go in and we're going to set up a search and turn it on for a buyer. So I promise you, we're going to look at the Collab Center first, and then I'm going to walk you through step by step exactly how to set it up for your buyers. Also some cool tips and tricks once you get in there. All right. All right, so I'm going to turn off my messy fuzzy hair today and get right into it. What you should be seeing on your screen at this point is you should be able to see the Collaboration Center. And when your clients log in, this is what they're seeing. They are able to go in and see new properties that were delivered to them. So let's say our client is taking a look at this 13523 Brougham Drive. They want to see more details about that property. They're going to go ahead and simply click View Detail. This is where they now can go in. They can blow up those photos so I can see the photo gallery. I can go down below and see all of the details as well as the remarks coming over from the MLS. I can see things like their virtual tours. I can see property details. Down below, it's going to give me helpful tax information. Also going to give me the history of the property as well as those features. It will give me room measurements. And if I scroll down a little further, I can see things like if there's HOA fees, if there's lease information, or if that client maybe wants to keep their payments around $2,000 a month, they can even crunch some numbers in the Mortgage Payment Center as well. So the idea is this, anytime a new property with your buyer's criteria comes onto the market, it immediately alerts them. Now, what I love about this is there's some great time-saving shortcuts. By allowing your clients to get these properties and communicate directly with you, you, the agent, are going to benefit because there's some great shortcuts on your end too. So let's say that our client just logged in here and they really liked this property. They want to go ahead and set up a showing. They can click favorite, which is going to immediately alert you as the agent that they've favorited a property. Of course, they could say maybe they're not sure, maybe they're still on the fence about this property. They could flag this as a possible property. If they don't like it, they can reject it, which is basically going to remove it for them so they don't see it any further. They can also do things like create custom folders. And the great thing about this is, let's say it's a husband and wife, or let's say it's two partners or two investors. They can actually both be set up on the same account so they can communicate together, and it will deliver those notifications to both parties. So I love, you can even do some custom side-by-side comparisons. It's got some great functionality allowing them to communicate as well as you to communicate with them. Now, one of my favorite things about this is that they can also ask questions. But normally, what happens is if I get that favorite alert, so let's say your client just went in, they favorited 3 or 4 properties. What normally happens is now I have to go in, I have to pick up my phone, call Mr. Schmagegi. Oh, Mr. Schmagegi, I see you liked property 123 Main Street. Now he says, well, yeah, let me call Mrs. Schmagegi. Let me find out when Mrs. Schmagegi is available to see it, and we'll give you a call back. Inevitably, by the time they call me back, the property's pending, right? It's a little frustrating. So here's an actual even better way. If they are favoriting properties, there's a spot right on the collaboration center where they can actually suggest a time and date. That means I don't now have to call them. I can see if they're available. If that time works for me, then I can go ahead and start scheduling those appointments. So that's kind of one of these shortcuts, is not only can you see the homes that they like, which are delivered to you, the agent, right away, but now I can even see what time they may be available to take a look at that property. And where they can ask questions is right here on this specific listing, or they can request the time that they'd like to see that. So again, just eliminates those extra steps. Now, of course, they've seen 13523 Brougham. They're going to go into the next property here. So let's take a look at this one. And I also like that they can see things like the seller's disclosure and lead-based paint disclosures. I like that they can go through the room measurements from here. But I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to start favoriting a couple of these properties because I want to show you some of the benefits it's going to give you, the agent, on your side as well. So we're going to say that our clients went in, they looked at a few of these properties. They're starting to favorite a couple of them. By the way, another great feature is when they go in to these particular listings, let's say that this listing happens to be an hour away. And they kind of want to see, well, what does the neighborhood look like? I mean, is it in a subdivision? Are the lots very close together? Instead of having to get in their car and drive an hour away to go see that neighborhood, they can also just click the street view right here. And this is going to take them to Google Maps where they literally can walk down the street. They could see the home to the left. They could see the home to the right. They can also see that it looks like quite a few little traditional brick ranches in this neighborhood, but it allows them to view the neighborhood without ever having to leave their home or even on their phone. Of course, they can do the map view as well, but I like that everything is right in front of them. If they did want to take a look at that seller's disclosure or lead-based paint disclosure for that particular home, instead of having to call me for that, they can actually see that right in the Documents tab. So they can click on it and open that up and view that seller's disclosure, again, without even having to call me first. So if there is some serious interest in the home, maybe we know due to the low inventory, we might be writing it right at the kitchen table. It's always great when they can view those documents ahead. All right, so I've gone in and I've said, we've got a few houses that they want to see. I'm just going to favorite a couple more just for a couple of good examples here. But on the left-hand side, you can also give them the ability to create their own searches. Now, what I really like here is that really by going in and setting up your buyer search ahead, and now they're getting all of those properties with their criteria. I love that because really it's taken all of the hard work of them having to go in and do their own searches. It's taken all of that, out of the mix. It's made it nice and easy. But let's say they start looking at the low amount of inventory and they realize, oh, geez, we might have to increase our price a little bit because I'm not seeing a whole lot of properties here. If they do go in and modify their search, it does alert you, the agent, right away. So now I know, oh, we might have to increase our search. Maybe I want to give them a call and find out, are you comfortable going, to, let's say, $25,000 more because there isn't a lot out there. But it allows me to see what they change or modify on their search. I can also see additional searches that they've set up. So if they're looking in maybe a neighborhood they weren't looking at before, I now can see that. All right, so some of the other functionality that I love, and we're going to kind of flip over to the agent side for just a moment, is when you are looking to find out what your clients are, let's say you want to see what your clients are viewing, you can do all of that right under the contact area. So when I go to my contacts in Paragon, I can click view and manage my contacts. And what I love about this is I can see how many properties that client just favorited. I can also see when I put them into the Collab Center. And I love that, especially because I can see when they last logged in. So if I'm concerned, are they using the Collab Center? I can actually see when they last logged in, and I can see when their last notification got sent out to them. So in this case, they received those properties yesterday. So I like that it's all in an easy dashboard for the agent to view. If the agent wants to go in and see what their collaboration center looks like, they can actually just click this view button that you see right here, and that will take me in to exactly what that buyer is seeing. So I can see, yep, they've got 12 favorites. They don't have any that they've flagged as possible, but I can see it just as they're seeing it. And we're also going to cover some new great enhancements that they've recently made, allowing you to work if you are selling their home as well as helping them find their new dream home. You can actually set up a seller side preference in here for them as well. So they can see new listings close to them that may have come onto the market. Resembles a little bit of the old listing book. If you remember a listing book, it's going to show them if there were price changes to listings in their area. So it's going to show them, again, their competition basically for their home that you're selling. So it can actually be great on the buy side, but it has some great sell side functionality too if you're also selling their home. All right, so what we can see here is that they've gone in, they've gotten quite a few listings. They've gone in, they've favorited, we're going to say 9 listings in this case. So what happened behind the scenes is because I'm the agent that set them up, I just got those favorite notifications. So I know that they've got a few properties that they want to see. Instead of me having to reach out to them and getting all those addresses or getting them one by one, some of my favorite functionality is that it makes it easy on the agent side. So they've gone in, they've favorited the properties. Now all I have to do is find the favorites for that client, and I can start scheduling them in a showing time cart. If you're not familiar with the showing time carts, it's one of my favorite features because it makes it so easy. Instead of scheduling properties one by one, and I know what you're thinking in this market, if we get 9 properties to show, we're pretty darn happy, right? There's not really a lot of inventory right now, but we've basically flagged this because I want to show you some examples of how you can take those 9 favorite listings and drop them right into showing time. So I'm going to click on this 9 here. And again, the idea is because they favorited, I want to make it easy on my side as the agent too. So I've got all of those properties. Now I want to schedule those showings. So I'm going to go ahead and select the properties. By the way, maybe it's not 9. We'll kind of cut this down a little. We'll make it a few. We'll make it, let's say just these. We'll do these 6 here. So I want to take these 6 listings. I'm going to hit the check button. So I'm just working with the ones I want to show. And maybe you're looking at this and wondering, well, Colleen, when I have listings, I don't see all of those. I don't see all of those categories, meaning I don't see the agent or agent name. Well, remember, you can actually customize your search results. And I actually like to see the agent who has it listed. I've been fortunate enough to have been doing this a while, so I've had the great experience of doing a deal with Al Bean and many other great agents in my area. But I like to be able to see who has it listed. So if, for instance, and I've talked to Bob many, many times, if I had a great closing with Bob, I might want to move him up in my to the top ones that I show right away. Maybe I've had another experience with an agent where they can't even return my call when I'm calling and calling. Maybe I want to move them down the list. Not that I wouldn't show their property, certainly, but I might want to put them further down on my list. So it allows you to add whatever fields are going to make it more convenient for you. So for me, I added the agent and agent name. So if you go to customize fields, remember you can add these things into your search results. If you wanted to add agent or agent name, you can go right to group, click on agent, and you can add that agent name in as I've done. Now, what I like to do is I also like to put them in my own order. So remember, you can also drag and drop these by simply grabbing them. You can change the order that you see your search results in. So I've got it set up. I can see the agent who has them listed here in my search results. The next thing I want to do is I want to use the easy button. I want to take all of those great properties and drop them into a showing time cart. To do that, I'm going to go right up to my toolbar here where you see actions. You might see a plug icon there. And that's really, think of it like plugging you into the easy button. So I'm going to click on that actions button. And I'm going to say, I want to take all of these and drop them right into showing time so I can start scheduling those appointments. I'm going to add those to the showing time cart. By the way, this little banner that you see at the bottom, this is just another reminder that you want to make sure that you are making sure that you're using a buyer representation agreement. You're going to see those little pop-ups throughout today's demonstration. Remember, thanks to the NAR settlement and MLS practice changes, you do want to make sure that you have a buyer representation agreement signed before showing any of these properties. So those new pop-ups that you see are just kind of a visual reminder that you need to do that. All right, so next I'm going to say, I want to add those properties to a showing cart. If you've got a showing cart already set up, as you see here, you could add the properties to that. But in this case, I'm going to set up a brand new showing cart. When do you want to show those properties? I'm going to say we want to take a look at those tomorrow. And of course, who do we want to show those properties to? We're going to say Barry Buyer. From here, it's going to drop those in. And here's what I really like about this. It's, of course, going to drop them in the order you brought them in from the MLS. But let's face it, with gas still being so expensive, nobody's going to want to drive in that route, right? So we're going to actually go over here to the Smart Route. We're going to click that button, and that's going to put them in the logical driving order that I want to start with. Now, maybe I'm starting from my office, so maybe that isn't the order I want to actually use. I can actually go up here, and I could change the order here. I could reverse the order. Maybe I just want to flip it around. Maybe I want to start with number 6 instead of number 1. I could flip that around by just simply clicking here. Or maybe I want to drag and drop that property into place. Maybe I want to show it in slightly a different order. Another thing I really like from here is that you can see the appointment type. So if I'm running out the door and I know maybe he just called me and he says, hey, I got a free lunch hour. I want to go see this property and this property. I can see if the property is a go and show and a good one to start with, or I can see if the appointment needs to be required, as you can see here. Now, what I like here is if it says go and show, I know I'm going to immediately get the lockbox right away when I get that appointment confirmed. The other thing I see here is how long it's going to take me to get from property A to property B. So I can see it's a 2-minute drive. I know exactly how to schedule this appointment. But on this screen, this is also going to be helpful because it's going to show you if you have blackout times. Or, so we can see right here at 9 a.m., there are no showings from 9 to 9:15. Or maybe you have an agent who doesn't allow overlapping showings. It's going to show you times that are not available that will help you schedule all of these easily. So let's say we're going to start at 10 a.m. Again, you're going to see these reminders for a while. It's just going to remind you that you do want to have a written buyer representation agreement. I'm going to say I want to start showing that at 10 o'clock. Yes, I do. I'm going to go in and I'm going to say I want to show that from 10 to 10:15. I like also that if you are going to show a property that requires a central lock lockbox code, it's going to show you that as well. And I'm going to say, I'm going to schedule this from 10 to 10:15. Now I know it's only a 2-minute drive and I can see that right here. So I'm going to probably go right on the heels of that showing. I'm going to say 10:15 to 10:30. And then right here, I'm going to say, you know what? It's going to be only 4 minutes. So that's pretty easy. I'm going to schedule that on the heels as well. So it allows me to, again, to see any blackout times that are there and to make sure that I'm scheduling because a lot of the electronic lock boxes like Master Lock or Central Lock, remember, you're tied to that appointment time and it might only give you that 15-minute window in front and 15 minutes on the end. So I want to make sure if it's going to take me 45 minutes or an hour in my drive time that I've factored that into my showing schedule. So from here, all I'm doing is I'm literally going in and picking the times that I want to show these properties. Once I've got all the times inserted, I'm simply going to click send my request. And of course, now it's going to go to work on confirming all of those appointments. And again, by making sure I've got the go and show right here, it's going to make it easy for me to start showing that property while the others are being confirmed. The great news is I'm going to send those out and I can also send my buyer turn-by-turn directions. I can send that right to his phone and that allows my buyer to know exactly what house we're going to start with. I can see he doesn't have to call me and say, okay, which house is next, Colleen? I can see all of that in my turn-by-turn directions that I'm sending him. And maybe you're like me and you get the tour all set up and that buyer calls you back as you're walking out the door and they say, hey, great news, Colleen. We just found another listing we want to see. You can always go in and click add another listing stop. You can put in the MLS number and add another listing to your showing time cart. Or maybe you're a great agent like Lisa Phelps on our call today. Maybe she is going to take her buyers to lunch in between property 3 and 4. So you can actually go in and click add another stop and you can put in the address that you're going to take them to lunch at. And then that would be included in their turn-by-turn directions as well. So it makes it really easy to send them convenient things that they can just click on their phone. It's going to make sure that they're knowing which property in which order and where they're going. Again, that's all. If you think about what we're doing here, we did all of these convenient steps to create our showing cart by just starting with that number 9 that we had right here. So everything that they favorited, I did all of that simply by clicking that number 9 and moving it right into our showing time carts. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. Again, if you joined us a little late, feel free to throw any questions that you have in the questions box, and Brian's behind the scenes answering away on those. All right. So one of the questions I often get when we get to this point is, well, Colleen, how do you get your buyers to stop using things like Realtor.com and Zillow and all these other sites and start using the Collab Center? And I have to tell you, I've had really good luck of getting many buyers to use this versus those others because many times they'll call you and they'll say, you know, Lisa, you didn't send me this property on 123 Main Street, but I went on Zillow and I saw it. So Lisa immediately looks it up and she says, well, that's because it closed 30 days ago. But of course, it's still showing active in Zillow. And why that is remember, Zillow is using a feed. And many times if the agents claim their listing, it actually breaks that feed from the MLS to Zillow, and therefore it doesn't update when it should. So what I tell my clients is, you know what? Let me get you on something better. Let me set you up in the MLS. That's what we, the agents, use. So anything new pops up immediately. And by using this, you're not going to see outdated information. It's actually searching the MLS just like I do. I actually put that right in the welcome message, and I'm going to show you how to set that up today. But I love when they call you just a couple times and they say, you know, well, why didn't you send me this? And you can point out it's a lot better to use this because it's way more accurate. You're not seeing those outdated listings that don't exist or have already closed. All right, so that's kind of our quick look at the Collaboration Center, kind of what your buyer's going to see. But now we kind of talked about some of the advantages on the agent side. I can always find what my clients are looking at by simply going to Contacts, View or Manage My Contacts, This allows me to see when they last logged in, anything that they favorited, but there's also some little hidden gems in here. And I'll tell you a true story. I swear you can't make this stuff up in real estate. Had a really recently had a great closing with just a really nice lady. One of those people who starts off a client but really becomes your friend, and you just can see long-term friendship with this person, right? So she said, my sister just started looking, and I'm going to give her your contact information. I said, oh, that would be wonderful, and kind of assumed the sister was going to be just like her, just a gem of a person. No, no, she wasn't. She was really much kind of the polar opposite of this sister. My second call went something like this. She literally said, Colleen, if you send me one more yellow sided home, I'm going to fire you and get another agent. Well, first of all, I didn't know she didn't like yellow siding. I don't think she ever mentioned that. Second, she just really wasn't all that nice about it. And third, there is no button in the MLS that says, hey, remove all yellow siding, right? It doesn't work like that. So there are some great workarounds for you, the agent. One, as you can see on my screen, is called the agent preview. And this, what it does is it allows you to set up a buyer who may be a little more particular in what gets sent to them, and it comes to you first as the agent. This allows you to go in and look at all of those listings. And if it has yellow siding, you can say, not that one, not approving that one. If it looks good, if it's a house that you think they'd be interested in, you can hit approve, and it would then send it out to that buyer automatically. So the agent preview role is where you, the agent, gets sent to you first for you to take a look, just in case you have a buyer who may be a little more challenging, or maybe has very specific needs. It sends it to you to kind of approve first, which I love. So in this case, it was very helpful because I could go in and click on, there was 34 listings, as you see here. I can go in and click on those 34 listings. Now I have the ability to say, yes, I want to approve this one, or no, I want to disapprove this one, which is going to remove it so they don't ever get it. So it's a way of giving you, the agent, that extra level of control. There's also another feature in here that I love, just for those reasons. Recently, I was working with a first-time home buying couple. They were planning a wedding, and they must have, I kid you not, they must have said no less than 50 times to me, I'm only going to live in St. Clair Shores. Don't ever show us a house outside of St. Clair Shores. We want the St. Clair Shores parks. We are only going to live in St. Clair Shores. That's all we want to see. So, of course, you know what happened, right? They did not buy in St. Clair Shores. That's always how it works, right? You, the agent, in many cases, know more about what they're going to buy, especially with this low inventory. We know sometimes that what they are hoping for isn't always what they get in their price range. So there's something called the agent recommended, and how this works. And another true story just recently happened to me, showing these kids around St. Clair Shores over and over again, can't find the house that they're looking for. Happened to be having lunch with one of my very good friends, Dawn Waldrop, who's also in real estate. She had listed a house 2 streets out of St. Clair Shores, literally 2 streets out of St. Clair Shores. And she started describing it to me, and I knew, it's like the radar in my head went off, and I knew immediately when she was talking about it that this was their home. But of course, it didn't pop up in the collaboration center because it wasn't in St. Clair Shores, which is what I included in their search. So it allows you, the agent, to do an agent recommended, which will pop up that listing as something you recommend them to look at. Means it didn't automatically pop up, but because I knew that was going to be their house, I put it in their agent recommended. They saw it. We went and looked at it. We wrote it right there. And sure enough, we were able to close it up. A lot of times we, the agents, again, know more about what they're going to end up buying. Now, does that mean I want to send them every listing outside of St. Clair Shores? Well, no, but I wanted to be able to have the ability to send them something if I knew it was going to be a showstopper, and I knew it was going to be something that they would consider. So it gives you that control. We're going to take a look at all of that. But that's really the beauty of the Collaboration Center. It's automated, so you don't have to babysit it. But if you need a workaround because you know what your client's going to end up buying, sometimes better than they do, you have those controls in place. All right. So let's talk about how you set up the Collaboration Center. The first thing that you want to do when you're setting up the collaboration center is you want to go into your preferences and you want to make sure you have it all set up so when that first person logs in, they're seeing your photo, they're seeing if you want your cell phone number displayed, if you want maybe your Facebook business page to be displayed on that welcome, you get to determine what they see first when you're welcoming them in. So let's take a look at that. Where you're going to set up your preferences, and what I find the easiest way is to go to preferences right here at the top of Paragon. You're also going to see kind of these wizards, and I like these. It's probably what you used, whether you remember way back in the day when you set it up, probably what you used when you were setting up Paragon. It kind of walks you through it. It's very, very foolproof. But in this case, under System, we're going to go to the Collab Center Preferences Wizard. This is going to walk you through setting up all of your preferences and what you want your site to look like, because that's kind of what it is. It's a site that you're able to communicate directly with your buyers and making sure that they get those listings immediately. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to go into my preferences wizard. Again, that's found right under preferences. And I'm going to make sure that all of my information appears correct. Do I want my cell phone number there? Some people don't want their cell phone number on their site. Do I want my email address displayed there? Do I have links to social media that I want them to see? So do I want my business Facebook or my Facebook business page here? Yes, I do. What image do I want displayed? So I'm going to literally walk through this wizard and I'm going to make sure that I've set up exactly what I want them to see. If you want to have about me, you can add in things like links. You can put a little video or you can put a resume in here. You can put a photo of maybe you shaking hands in front of the sign, but you can actually set this up so when they are clicking on that page for the very first time, and they're seeing all the information about you. If you want to drive traffic maybe to a website, that's a great way to just simply add that website link in here. But really, you want to make sure that you're going in and you're setting up your page before turning any of your clients on to the Collab Center. Again, where we found that is right under Preferences, right under the Collab Center Preferences Wizard. It's literally going to walk you through step by step. You're just following the next prompts. Again, if you wanted to add more links, maybe you want to add your website, your Facebook business page, maybe you want to also add your LinkedIn page. All of those can be added here. Again, more information. This one's about your office. Do you want your office number and fax number displayed? Do you want your logo displayed? And you're literally just clicking your way through. All right, so this one I want to spend a little bit of time on, and this is actually step 6 in the wizard. This is your default notifications. Now, remember, these are your default. If you decide on a particular client, maybe you don't want to give them access to search the entire state, well, you can actually turn that off for a specific client. Or maybe you don't want to get notifications every time they reject a particular listing. So you can actually do that on a client by client basis, but this is really your defaults. What do you want it to automatically default for? So many agents tell me, well, I don't want all these emails coming in. I got 19 clients in there and I'm getting all these emails. I don't want that. Well, this is where you can kind of adjust that. And what that means is, do you want to be notified on every new listing that gets sent to your client? I personally do not. Be notified on the important things. I want to be notified if my client favorites a listing. Absolutely, because I want to set up a scheduled showing right away. Do I want to be notified if they possibly like something so I can answer any questions? Do I want to be notified if a comment comes in? Do I want to be notified if they set up a new search or they modify my search? Absolutely. Those are all ones that I want to know about. I don't want to be notified for every single listing that they don't like. That doesn't make sense, right? That's a lot of emails I don't really need to look at. Down below, so the top, think of this as your agent notifications. But the bottom down below is going to be what your client notification options. Yes, I want them to be notified of any new listings. I want them to be notified of any price changes. If their status goes back to active, I want them to be notified of that. So I want to make sure that they're seeing all of those important listings. I'm going to jump over to next because I want to show you a couple cool things here. Remember, these are your defaults. My default is I would like to generally default to residential because that's mostly what I do. But down here, this is where it gets a lot of people say, well, Colleen, if it's a buyer, all you need to turn on is the actives, right? Well, here's the problem with that. So I turn on all the actives, the solds, and the pendings, and there's a reason. Yes, I'm only sending out new active listings to my buyer. However, things are going pending so very quickly right now that if I don't allow them to see pendings, and let's say it goes pending in an hour or 2 hours, when they click on that listing, they no longer can see it. So now it looks like it's broken, right? And I learned this the hard way. I used to set up clients only with active. But what was happening is they'd get the notification, they'd click on it, and because the agent already marked it pending, they could no longer see it. So my recommendation is, yes, you want to select active, at least active and pending. I have active, pending, and sold because every once in a while there is a sold list. It goes active to pending right away, and a day later, by the time they check it, they're working on a cash deal, and now they're looking at it, and oh my gosh, it's already closed. So I do recommend active and pending, and I also like sold. Remember, these are your defaults, though. This isn't really what you're setting your client up with. You can do that on an individual basis too. So in this case, I select new and new only. But you could also, if you wanted everything to be set as a default for an agent preview, well, you could do that. I don't want that. I just want to turn that on if I need it, but that option is here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to the next one. I am not a fan, I'm just going to go on record. I am not a fan of Zestimates. I don't find them accurate. In many cases, I was just up at an office yesterday in Lexington, and they were saying, oh my gosh, we looked at a couple and they were so wildly out of whack because they're on the water out there, and it also doesn't, in many cases, adjust for acreage. And it was kind of funny. So I don't include any of those. But if you wanted to include those on your Collaboration Center site, you could. I think most people will be in agreement with me and probably will not, but anyway, the option's there. All right, so we've walked through, we've set up all of our preferences. Now we just need to go in, and now we need to set up our search. Now, I promise you, the hardest part of really using the Collaboration Center is creating your search and marrying it to your contact record. If you do that, you're home free. I promise it will be super easy. So again, the hardest part of the Collaboration Center is setting up your search with all of your buyers. I have to have this, wants and needs and haves and what they're looking for, right? Then it's just marrying it to that buyer's name and email address. It's that simple. The other thing the other question I always get right about now is, Colleen, lady with the fuzzy hair, you said all of our tools are in our resources. And so a lot of people will go to resources to look for the Collab Center, and it's not there. So I just want to tell you ahead, this is probably one of the only tools you don't find under resources. And the reason for that is because it's not really a tool. It's really a saved search. That's really what it is. It's a saved search, and you're just putting a contact with it. So don't look under resources. You won't find it there. It's really just starting off with a search and marrying it to the contact record. All your other tools, though, whenever you're looking for like Cloud CMA or Showing Time, or you're looking for, let's say, your property links for your single property website, or you're looking for education, upcoming classes, those are always under resources. But in this case, it's so easy, it's actually just doing a search. So that's where we're going to go next. Close a few of these tabs out. So we're going to go right up here to the top toolbar. And I changed this. I had my fall theme up, but since the election seems to be all everyone is talking about these days, I changed it back to kind of an election theme. It's actually 4th of July, but we're going with it. All right. So from here, we're going to go to search. And what do I want to look? So I'm going to say that this particular buyer is looking for a single family residential home. So I'm going to go ahead and select, start my search. And remember, you might see fields that may look a little different than your exact search is set up. But remember, that's because the great thing about customizing in Paragon is you can add in whatever fields are important or specific for your business. So you're probably thinking, well, why would she search by zip code? I was actually teaching a class in Detroit recently, and they said, you know what, Colleen, we have to be able to search by zip code because Detroit is so large, and we can kind of just pinpoint what we're looking for more by zip code than area. I said, that makes perfect sense. So remember, if there's a specific need that you have, you can add in that field and make your searching a whole lot easier. All right, so in our search, we're going to say that this particular buyer is looking for a single family. And if you don't know what a particular field is asking for, by the way, a little tip is to go to the right where that magnifying glass is. It'll show you. They're just asking, are they looking for a condo, a farm, or a single family home? So I'm going to jump down here a little bit. And I'm going to say, of course, we're not looking for rentals. We're just looking for sale. And I'm going to jump down a little further, and I'm going to say that this client was very specific that they are looking for a ranch style home. So I'm going to say that I want to go to structure style, and they're looking for a 1-story home. They did say they need a minimum of 3 bedrooms, so I'm going to keep that maximum open. They're looking for at least a bath and a half, so I'm going to do 2 minimum in our bathrooms. But what about those clients that have very specific needs? Yes, they want a basement, but they were very clear that they want a fully finished basement. Or yes, they're looking for a garage, but they only want to see homes with attached garages. So how do you add that extra level of detail? And that's really done in the features. And I love features. There's thousands of features that are available, but let me give you some examples. So let's say in that case that they are only looking for a home with an attached garage. You could go to the feature section and you could see that there are 3 different feature categories. There are must-have, meaning my buyer only wants to see homes with this. It has to have an attached garage or they don't want to see it. So remember, you can start typing in the word attached, click on it, and now only homes that have attached garage are going to show up. Maybe you have a client, another true story. I swear you can't make this stuff up in real estate. I recently closed a home in Lenox, and Lenox is in Macomb County, and it is a pass or fail septic in Macomb County, which means it has to pass in order to be conveyed in sale, which means you can't close if it doesn't pass, right? So it happened to be a divorce situation, and it was right outside. If you know Lenox at all, there's a large dump there, and so it is not the most, wasn't the most desirable home in the first place. Second place, they were going through a pretty ugly divorce, and the husband had explained that the septic field was new, about 2 years old. And when right before closing, we found out not only was it not 2 years old, it was 25 years old, but he had placed a swimming pool on top of it. Yes, I kid you not. He had actually put an above ground swimming pool on top of a septic field. So if you know what weight does to a septic field, it was not pretty. So she explained to me that after many estimates, it was going to cost $17,000 to put in a raised engineered septic field to clean up all of the mess. So when we started to look for her home, she only had one request, I kid you not, and it was, I don't ever want to see a home that is on a septic system ever again. So sure enough, we put in must not have a septic field, and any homes that were on a septic then didn't go to her. So she was very adamant she was never going to deal with that again, and that was a big request for her. So if you are using the features, you have must have this item in order to go to that buyer, must not have, in this case, we'll use our septic example, or must have at least one of these items. Maybe you have a client who has he has like a home workshop, and he has a business out of his home, and he either has to have an oversized shed or a pole barn. So it must have at least one of those in order to make it over to the client. Now you're probably thinking at this point, well, how am I going to know what all the features are? Because you said there's thousands. Well, there's an easy way to find exactly what you're looking for, because sometimes I'm a little unsure what that feature actually may be called. It may have more than one name. So I'm going to go over to this magnifying glass to the right. And where it says basement type, to use our finished basement example, I could go right to basement type and say, only want to see things with a finished basement. So it's easier just looking for that category. And Brian's done a great job of making it really easy to find. Like if I'm looking for that attached garage, I'm going to simply go to garage type. I can very easily find attached garage, and I can make sure instead of the client being upset with me and calling me and saying, Colleen, I have now told you 3 times we only want to see things with a finished basement. I can eliminate that. I can actually just say they only want to see things with a finished basement. So I'm not sending them a bunch of listings to go through that they really didn't want to see. There's some other great ones in here. If you have clients looking for a particular type of financing, if you, let's say land contract, I have a land contract buyer, he could buy cash, but he just likes to torment me and only look at things that have land contract terms. If you don't want to send that person everything, you want to kind of get it down to what the seller's looking to accept land contract terms on, you can actually go to financial terms and say, you know what? I'm going to only send things that the seller has said that they'll take land contract on. So there's some really great options, especially when it comes to if you have a client, maybe the client says, you know what, I have a boat. I don't care if I would love to have waterfront. That'd be awesome. But I would actually take canal frontage or being on the river or just having a steel seawall at my home so I could tie the boat up there. So maybe you want to do just must have at least one of these. Maybe it either has to be canal frontage or lake frontage or river access so I can get to Lake St. Clair. So if you're saying it only has to have at least one of those, then anything that has at least one of those items is going to then be delivered to the buyer. So I just thought those were kind of some good examples. I'm going to deselect these because we won't find many of these in the area we're looking for right here. So now in this low inventory market, are you always going to add features? And the answer is no. Right now, there's not a lot of inventory, but if you have a client with very specific needs and you don't want to send them a bunch of things that they don't want to see, this is a great way to eliminate that. All right, so you're probably thinking, okay, lady with the fuzzy hair, you got 5,000 listings. Well, remember, we got to put in some more criteria here. The first criteria we want to put in is I, of course, want all actives to go. That's going to eliminate a lot of those, as you can see. The next thing I want to do is where is that buyer looking? Now, you could go in and you could say, you could start typing in the city. So I could say, maybe they're looking in Sterling Heights, maybe they're looking in Macomb Township. You could obviously just keep typing in your cities that way. You could also do it by counties. Maybe they're looking over multiple counties. But what if you have a buyer who's even more specific, that they're looking in particular neighborhoods, or maybe there's a couple cities that they're looking at, but they like certain areas. Maybe they want to be closer to the downtown area. Then I would probably suggest searching by map. So let's take a look at that next. So we're going to go into search by map. When your map opens, by the way, it's going to generally open to where your office location is. So my red X is set to my office location. You can change that in your preferences though. But here's a couple good examples when you're doing your searches. So I am looking at this area and I'm going to say my buyer is being pretty specific on where they want to live. They want to live in maybe a particular neighborhood. So I'm going to say I want to go up to this draw option. I personally like the polygon a lot. I use that one. I think it's really easy to especially outline if they want to stay, let's say they want to stay east of Dequindre. They don't want to go south of 24. Unfortunately, their mother-in-law lives right up here in this northeast corner. We're going to kind of stay away from that area. So we're going to actually stay a little closer to the left side of the sub. You can actually draw exactly where that buyer is wanting to live. If you want to see the neighborhood, again, you can actually move that little yellow Google man right into the neighborhood and you can take a look for yourself. Would this be the right neighborhood for this buyer? Let me see. Would they like this? Looks like a cute neighborhood, larger lots, just like they were requesting. So it allows you to use that little yellow Google man right down here to see those items too. Now, if you have a buyer that's looking in multiple areas, so maybe we're going to move over here a little bit. Maybe I also want to draw another shape staying closer to this area. You can have up to 10 shapes on your map. So I can keep drawing those shapes out. And if I want to see some of those homes that are popping up for sale now, I can just click on the flag and it's going to give me those details right over here. All right, so Couple other things. Maybe they want to live within 5 miles of where they work. You could actually go up and type in an address. I'm going to use my trusty address with all the good examples here. And I do comma. And by the way, you want to use the root street address. So you don't want to put the circles, the boulevards, the places, the ways. You kind of want to have just the root street address, comma, the city. So I'm going to do my Sterling Heights here. And now I can click on that magnifying glass and it's going to relocate me directly to that area that they work. So again, maybe they want to live 3 miles from their work address. I can go ahead and draw that radius out so that they're living 3 miles from that work address. Or maybe mom and dad help with the kids and they want to stay close. This is a really easy way to do that. If you didn't get any search results, here's another little cool trick. You can always click on the edit, click on the shape here, and we can maybe move it out just a little bit more to find out if there was any additional listings, if I didn't return any listings the first time. So it allows you to kind of just pull that open a little bit more and find out, was there any additional listings there? Obviously, the more criteria that you put in, the less search results you're going to get back. Here was another really good example that actually I have to thank Flo Abke for giving me the other day. I hadn't thought of this. It was a really good example. She said to me, Colleen, this is all well and good, but I am working with a buyer who happens to be a volunteer firefighter for this particular very wooded area. And she said, I'm looking at this, but he has to live within the city limits. He can't live one street outside the city, otherwise he would lose his position there. So I'm like, oh, okay. And she said, so I'm drawing out the search. It would be really helpful to know where that is. And I said, no problem. So I thought it was just a really good example because it doesn't come up a lot, but if you're trying to stay within specific municipality lines, here's a really good tip. So I'm going to just kind of divide this up a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. If you go up to these, it kind of looks like layers here, kind of looks like maps on top of each other, if you will. If you click on those layers, this is where you can add things like the municipality lines. You can even have it label each municipality, as you can see. Now, so this kind of helped her. So she called me back and she said, well, Colleen, this is good. It's better. She said, but what if I want to get down to the actual street? And I said, no problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in. And we're going to change that. Probably the best way I would think to do that would be your aerial view. And now you can actually see the street lines where, I'm going to zoom into where we got a few more houses. That was kind of rural. But you can actually see street lines where the municipalities start and stop. So for her, she was actually kind of searching in this neighborhood here, she was actually able to see the exact street she needed to end her search on. That's a little bit more rural, so we'll kind of move a little bit over here so you can see it even better. But she could see the houses, the lot lines, and the actual streets that she wanted to keep in her search lines. I thought it was a really good example. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to use that next time we have a class to just kind of demonstrate on how, if you're trying to draw out that search, it becomes really helpful when you can just add those municipality lines on. All right. I'm going to change our view back just to kind of be what we were looking at before here for just a moment. Now, as I zoom out, we've got our buyer areas that our buyers are looking at. So we've got our radius, we've got our shapes that we drew. Now let's go ahead and let's run our search. Looks like we've got 42 properties to start our buyers off. So we're gonna actually turn on the Collaboration Center. It's gonna send them these 42 properties to start off with, and then of course any new property will automatically be sent to them. If you're going through here and there's a particular listing you didn't want to send, you could always remove that listing. I like to also just kind of do the checked button because I hate my OCD brain just doesn't work well with anything extra I don't want to see. Now I want to go in, I want to set up that Collaboration Center. So I want to go to where it says save, but instead of just saving this as a search, I want to save this search as. Once you click Save Search As, now it's going to give you the ability to name your search. So I'm going to call this Lisa's lottery search. This is going to be Lisa's search when she wins the lottery for the houses that she's looking for. All right. The next thing I want to do is the hardest part, I just want to marry the contact record with the search we just did. So if you already have that contact in Paragon, this is where you could go and find that contact and now just associate it. But in this case, we're going to add a brand new contact. So I'm going to call this Lisa Ends Search. And I'm going to put in that buyer's email address. So we're going to say this is Bertha Buyer at com. All right, so we're putting in their contact information. So again, this is the hardest part. I'm putting in my buyer's name, putting in my buyer's email address, and I'm going to go ahead now and hit save. One thing I do want to point out here that a lot of times people will get an error here, and I want to explain why. If you are putting in, I just want to show you what it's going to look like. If you are putting in a buyer that you've already added in, or let's say you're putting in your own contact information. I get this call probably once a week and it says, hey, there's an error. The reason it's giving you that error is because you already exist there. And let me explain why you don't want to do that. This is basically a website, right? And it's kind of creating a site that is where you're communicating with your clients. So let's say that your client is looking for residential properties, or they might call you back and now they're looking for vacant land. The last thing you want to do is have them set up in different sites, right? Because they go in this one, they're like, oh, wait, there's no vacant land here. And then they got to go in. That would be terrible, right? To have multiple sites you're sending your poor buyer to. So how does it work? Well, what happens is you can only have a buyer in there one time. Now, you can have multiple searches for that buyer, but you only want them to have one site to have to go to, right? You don't want it to be all divided up into different places. That would be so confusing. And that's why it only lets you put them in one time. So if you get that error message that I just showed you, it's because it's telling you, hey, this person already exists. And you want to add another search to them, not another site, because then they're not going to know where their searches are. So basically, if you get that message, it just means you probably already have that contact in there. A lot of people will try when they're using the Collaboration Center to set up themselves first, and they set one up, and then they go back in to try it again. They set themselves up, and it says, well, that's when you get that error. So keep in mind, if you do get that error, it just means that you've already got that contact already set up. So I'm going to go ahead, now I'm going to go ahead and hit save. As you can see, I now hit my save and notify because we want to send them a welcome. They may have never used the Collaboration Center before. We want to give them that welcome screen that's going to show them, hey, here's how you favorite listings. If you download an app these days, you'll notice it kind of has that layover where it says, hey, here's how you favorite. Sometimes it almost looks see-through and they'll have little arrows, like, different things you can do within the app. Same concept here. When they get it, it's kind of got that little markup of all the great things that they can do in the Collaboration Center. So some of my favorite options are, if you have, let's say you're working with an investor. So I happen to know that Lisa Knoll, who does a lot of listings in my area, in the Richmond area, she does work with investors. And let's say she gets a call from an investor who says, Lisa, I got like 19 emails in the last 2 days. Is there any way that I could just get like an email once a week that shows me everything for the week? Although in this market with the low inventory, probably don't do that. But yes, you can do that. If they're getting too many or too frequent notifications, you can go right to this options here. And you could say, you know what, I want to set the client up to only get it maybe every other day. Maybe, excuse me, maybe you want them to get it once a week, like on Monday mornings. You can actually just pick which days of the week you wanted them to get it. Maybe you wanted them to get it, again, maybe every 2 days instead of every day. You can actually customize the time and the day that you want them to get it. Now, I wouldn't really do that for any clients at this point because of the low inventory, but here's what I do like. For your agent notifications, maybe you, as the agent, just want a report of everything that got sent to your client Monday morning at 9 a.m. so you can follow up and see if they liked anything. So you could say, I want my agent notification to be set for once a week on Monday at 9 a.m. when I'm getting to my desk. And that way I remember to call them and I can review any properties with them. So keep in mind, you can even set your sending options if they're getting it too much. From here, I want to send my welcome. Now you can create a custom welcome message in your the preferences that we went through before. You can set up your own custom welcome message. For me, I just use the welcome message that's there many times, or sometimes I'll put in, hey, this is even better than the than Zillow that you sent me the properties from before, because this is the actual MLS. And all the information will be updated instead of outdated, like in a feed, like you're seeing there. So you can also put in a custom message here, and then all you have to do is hit send. Now I've invited that client into the collaboration center so that they can start seeing those properties and any new properties with their criteria right away. So they're all set up, but I want to show you a few things that you can do over here to the left. So I'm going to go to contact activity, and this is going to show you, by the way, what you have set up for them. If you click on contact information, this is where you could add, remember if they're married or they're partners or they have a spouse, this is where you could add that secondary person so that they get those email notifications. And I like this. This is kind of a hidden feature that not many people know about in Paragon, but I really like that you can create custom groups. So for instance, my son goes to a little private school here in Richmond, and I like to keep track. A lot of times I do the water bottles for the races with, the pictures and, business cards on them, things like that. I like to keep track of how many leads actually come from things like that. So I set up a group, Jake's School SOI. So anytime I get a new seller or buyer lead, I can actually put them in the buyer category and the group of Jake's SOIs. I can keep track of those. Why I like to do that is when I'm getting ready to do my Christmas postcards or my account magnet calendars, and I'm sending those out. A lot of times I like to have a special, letter that I include with them, so I can actually do labels and information just for that group. So it makes it kind of cool. You can kind of keep track of where your leads are coming from. So you can add those secondary people in, so they're getting those notifications. This is where you can also turn on the agent preview, which is that way to allow or disallow properties so they're not getting those yellow siding properties, right? You can actually do that on a client basis. So I could change this to an agent preview here. Another thing I'd like to point out is when your clients buy, you do not want to go in and delete your client from Paragon, because you want to keep them in your SOI, right? You want to manage them. You want to keep them in your groups, and you want to send out reminders to them, and you want to send out Christmas cards to them. So you don't want to delete anyone. What you do is you're just making that person inactive for those notifications. Now they're not getting any new notifications, but they're still in your client database, okay? Other things, let's say, and I'm going to just not save that. Let's say that you set your client up and for some reason they did not get their welcome. You can actually go right back to your buyer activity and click resend your invitation. That's going to resend their welcome out. So if they didn't get it, don't worry, you can always resend it. I think I mentioned under the agent recommended, that house that wasn't in St. Clair Shores, but I still wanted to make sure popped up in front of them. You can go into agent recommended, click add a listing, put in that listing MLS number, and it's going to pop up right in their collaboration center for them to see. And it does say agent recommended, so they're going to know that you sent that specifically. You, as I mentioned, don't want to have clients in multiple sites, but you can have multiple searches for the client. So if they're looking for a fixer-upper in one city, but they're also maybe looking for some vacant land in another city, you can always go in and add another search. You can even add a search you may have set up before, like a saved search. Lastly, seller activity. Now, this is where it gets really cool, because remember when I mentioned you're helping them find their dream home, right? But Lisa Knoll is helping them find their dream home because she's selling their house here in Richmond. So what we want to do is we want to associate those. I want to associate that property, that listed property that I have. So I'm going to click associate the listing. and I'm going to select a listing. Now, by the way, I don't currently have an active listing, but it does open up your active listings. So I can now associate their listed property. So if Lisa went in and did this right now, she'd pick which one of those listings is hers, and it's going to associate this account to that listing. So if some new property comes up next to them, they're going to see that as their competition. Someone lowers their price, they're going to see that. It's got a lot of that same listing book functionality that we saw previously. Then, of course, we have the clients who pull this, and it happens so often. They'll call and they'll say, Colleen, well, the wife and I were going through houses 2 weeks ago, and you sent us something with black shutters. We didn't think we'd like it at the time, but we're now reconsidering that home, but I don't see it anymore. Can you resend that to us, right? And you're like, black shutters 2 weeks ago, right? So you can always go back into your message history. This will show you every single email, every property that goes out to them. Obviously, we just set this person up, so they've only gotten one welcome email. But all of the emails with the time and dates can always be resent. You can click them open and you can see every house that was actually delivered to them. So really easy ways to go back and resend those properties. So I know by now you're thinking, wow, this does a lot, and it does. The Collaboration Center, what I tell people is really set yourself up. Set yourself up so you can see it and go through it one time. Make sure it looks just like you want it to. And then now you can start setting up all of your clients. But it really is that easy. So remember, the hardest part of the Collab Center is really going in first into your preferences, as you see here, going to your Collab Center Preferences Wizard, your site all set up so it looks great, just the way you want it. With any social media sites, whether you want your cell phone, what photo you want, all of that set up first. The next thing is you're simply going to go in, put in your search criteria for that buyer. Once you've done that, you're going to remember to do a saved search as, and you're going to get them into the Collaboration Center. Once you've set them up in the Collaboration Center, they're going to be seeing all of those new properties without you having to do those redundant searches day after day to send them over to your buyer. All right, the last thing I want to show you is really where you can find this class. So it takes me about 24 hours. Matter of fact, I just got Friday's class is now uploaded in there. So if you go to resources under the education area, you're going to find some things like recorded webinars. So if you missed any part of today's class, you can still jump back and check it out. Just click on that recorded webinars. That'll take you right to our YouTube channel. From there, you're going to click on videos. This is going to show you all of the last week's are creating a listing from A to Z, Paragon tips and tricks. So all of our videos and the date right next to it so that you can go through it. You can fast forward to exactly the part that maybe you had to step away, hopefully to bottom line and offer. But if you did have to step away, the class is recorded. You can always go back to it. A couple other little quick things while we're here. Under resources, I've also added the education corner with some exciting new classes. I just want to kind of take 2 seconds and talk about those. The education corner is where you're going to find upcoming classes that we hold on every product. So from Kubacasa to Cloud CMA, we just also created a new class called Beyond Cloud. What that is creating property flyers, buyer tours, lead generation capture. All of that is actually found we do that in Beyond Cloud CMA. So it kind of takes you through cloud, but those pieces that are not directly related to an actual comparative market analysis. Things like showing time classes, Authentisign classes. My best friend in the world, Lisa Harris, does an outstanding property tax record class on BS&A and Realist, how to find it, how to search, how to create mailing labels, how to look for listing leads. She just does an awesome job with that class. Her next class is coming up November 13th. If you have not taken that one, strongly, strongly recommend it. It's really good. But another good friend of mine, Taylor Fedewa, who teaches our communications, and she teaches an amazing photography class. People have been asking for this class to return for a long time now, so I'm happy to say it's back on the schedule. It's a 3-part class, and I'm a little embarrassed to say I thought as an agent I took pretty good photos until I took Taylor's class, and I was shamed. But she teaches an amazing class on how to take shots from good to fabulous, but she also teaches you how to photograph those really hard to photograph areas. In her first class, what she does is she helps you learn how to add more light and aperture, meaning a lot of times if you're taking pictures of hallways or bridgeways, mine always look kind of short and dumpy. Like you can't tell how long and beautiful the hallway is. It just looks kind of like a choppy hallway. She actually shows you how to take those shots and elongate them by using more aperture and light and shutter speed. The second class is some more advanced tips, but the third class is absolutely my favorite. It's what she does in our photo field trip. And what she does is she sets up a fully furnished model. We usually get a builder who will let us come in and showcase one of his models. And last time we went to, I think it was Lombardo Builders, and he had this beautiful $1.5 million home, all staged. It was all furnished. And she puts you in these hard to photograph rooms. One was a little powder room. We all know those, right? You're either in the mirror in your photo, which I absolutely hate, or the only thing you can seem to shoot is like the front and center of the toilet, which we all know it has a toilet. That's not really what we're looking for, right? She'll show you how to do great pro shots, like angling off the counter into the mirror to get the entire room. She just showed me some amazing things that took my photos from not that great to really a much more professional. She does have a degree in photography, which certainly helps. So check out those classes. Again, we've had a lot of people asking for their return. They start, the first class is on November 19th. It's also going to be repeated in December, and then January is part 2, and then the photo field trip will be in February. So you can sign up for those right through that education corner, as well as any of the other classes. Just click on the register here button, just like you did for today's class, and it will send that link right to your inbox so that you can attend. Brian, did we have any questions that we needed to cover, or you've been working hard to take care of all those, and I appreciate it.
Good questions. They were all answered. Actually, what's great is you covered everything that was asked. So
I love that.
great
It's
class.
rare. Thanks for all your help. I really, you always come through. I appreciate it. And so I appreciate everybody taking the time out to take the class with me. Hopefully this helped with the Collaboration Center. I'll get this uploaded to recorded webinars shortly. I hope you have a great day and happy selling, everybody.